Hi, this is Derek Ramsey, Secretary of the Labor Cabinet. I'm joined by Randy Shoemaker, and we're here today to talk about the apprenticeship program, and that's the pride of the state of Kentucky now. Randy, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. Excited to be here.
You've worked on this welding program at the high school there for a number of years. Share it with us.
Yes. This is my 13th year being there. Inherit the program. The program's been there since 1969. It was a building program when I got there. A lot of new technology, a lot of new equipment, higher demands for the workforce, and we've just been working right along.
Mm-hmm. Well, Governor Bevin has stated that he wants Kentucky to be the manufacturing hub of America. And so what we're trying to do aggressively across the state, and I'll have you comment on as well, as me and my team go around the state of Kentucky, we're constantly bombarded by conversation, the lack of a shortage of skilled workers. Can you comment on that?
Yes. My program we usually run about 125 students per year through it, starting from freshmen all the way up to seniors. Over the past 6-7 years, I can't make enough manufacturing welders to meet the needs right now. The demand is, like you said, getting higher and higher every day. The craftsmanship has to be higher for the students, so we take them at an early age, and then we develop them all the way into a certified welder. And of course, they got other avenues to go into post-secondary college, the apprenticeship program that you guys are working with. So it's a lot of work. But yeah.
Well, also the interesting part, Randy, I've been in higher education for the last 20 years. And what I got to see was a number of my young people, athletes in particular, that were run up debt, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000. But the part that was disheartening to me was that years later, these young people would have all this debt, and then were finding jobs making $25,000, $30,000, $35,000.
Yes.
Now, nationally, I know that apprentice, a journeyman, or journeywomen, once they become certified, on average make $50,000. That's nationally. And I know you've had a couple of superstars, if you would,
Yes.
In the welding. Share with us about it.
We've had very good success. Like I said, you've been in my program. I set the bar very high for the students to make them want to not be mediocre. I want them to come out striving to be the best. And of course, you've got to experience that.
Right.
It's the same way into our trade skill. I've had numerous kids. Like I said, we competed all the way across the state. We do very well. My students, I might be a little biased, but they do go above and beyond. I've got kids on the average. These kids are making anywhere from $50,000, $60,000 a year out of a 7-month, 7-month post-secondary training, a master welders through Tulsa Welding School.
Mm-hmm.
When they come out there, they're averaging anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000. Now, you take some of the kids that's really went above and beyond. I've got a couple of students that are making 6 figures a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting more and more common with the lack of trade skills out there that it's a dying breed.
Right.
The average welder right now is 55 years old.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't bridge that gap between the youth today and those 55-year-olds, it's going to be a big gap. So what we're trying to do is bridge that, and these kids that are going out and finding out that hard work, good skill, they're making 6 figures. I've got one kid right now is making $375,000 a year,
Oh, my.
and he's traveling the world. So,
Wow.
so it is a success story.
An interesting part about that, to give a little history from my perspective regarding vocational school or technical school, as one would call it. Many eons ago, when I graduated from high school back in 1974, there were 2 on-ramps, if you would, to success.
Yes.
One being college preparatory and the other one being vocational. And so what has happened over the last 40 years, it's either been stigmatized out or it's been choked out, one or the other.
Yes.
And so also with the invention of the Microsoft and technology and Intels and all these companies, we've kind of gotten away from making things.
Definitely.
And so where we are, I think we've come full circle.
Yes.
Our infrastructure is crumbling in front of our face. Our airports are crumbling in front of our face. Our bridges the same. And so there's this big demand now. But also, not to be political, but to introduce this, for years and years, there's been the conversation of the absence of a middle class. Now, with that absence, if you remember, the middle class used to be those workers, the
Yes.
skilled workers. And so the absence of that for the past number of years, and I think, again, it's gone full circle, and there's such a gigantic demand and need. Those university young people I was working with, they can find jobs, but with the skilled workers, they're coming to find you.
Definitely, most definitely. We see that with Toyota. You know, one of the big hitters around here. They will pick up the phone and call us looking for our trade skills. We've got the AMT program. They call me every year looking for my guys, wanting top candidates to come into the program because they know Toyota needs that demand.
Right.
A lot of the other Tier 2 companies and Tier 3 companies that support Toyota, we can't fill the gaps right now. And we need more kids, more awareness over the trade skills. And like you said before, you was considered, if you didn't go to a 4-year college, you were just kind of shuffled off to the side. Well, what we're finding out now, and a lot of my kids, they don't have the debt as far as the college because the college tuitions that they're going to is $20,000 a year versus, up to $200,000.
Right.
And then what we're finding out that they come out there, gets them in the workforce faster. They're trained. They can, believe me, I've got 2 college degrees, and I've got kids coming out welding right now making a whole lot more than I do as a educator. So the demand comes with the money, and these kids can have a job for the rest of their life.
Right. You know, the interesting part about this, let's talk about from where I sit, the apprenticeship program, how it works. Depending on the skill set, it could take anywhere between 4,000 hours OJT up to 8,000 hours. But also it requires 566 credit hours, and how those are broken out. And for young people, I really want you to hear me today because you guys are showing me the money. Well, with apprenticeship, we show you the money immediately.
Yes.
The way ours is set up, 4 days a week, it'll be OJT. Which you'll be compensated. In a lot of cases, they start $10, $11 an hour. And over that 4-year sequence, that number goes up.
Definitely.
And then, of course, once you become a journeyman, a journeywoman, it goes up substantially.
Yes.
But also, as you mentioned, this is an opportunity not only to take care of yourself, but to provide for your family.
And your community.
And your community as well. And so, once you become a journey person, you're not only certified for our state, but you're certified for the other 49 states as well, although we hope you stay here at home.
We do hope you stay here.
Because there are, as I stated, when I travel, when my deputy travels, my commissioner and different people that work for our organization, they travel, there's always the constant ask, well, where can we find good help? Where can we find good help? So the message you're trying to share with them, with our audience, not only that is it a viable opportunity, a viable experience, but it also is a way that you can provide way beyond what you've imagined with very low debt.
And definitely. And it's something that, like with the kids with trade skill, it's going back to that, like you said, the roots of it. Taking pride in your work. And at the end of the day, you're looking at, that structure that you built, and you can take ownership with it. And with the community, the state of Kentucky, I bleed blue, just like you do.
That's right.
And I take pride in my community and my state and even my country that I want to make us the best that we can possibly be. And it starts with trade skills.
Right. Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. Again, as we move around, there's an excitement about it. Also, what I'm excited about is not only in our state, but you find that politicians nationally talking about the absence of trade skills. And so, a lot of time people promote for their state. And yes, I'm promoting for our state. In particular, we have to twofold. We have to train up folk because of that pipeline that you talked about.
Yes, sir.
For the jobs we have here currently. But also, if we're going to bring new businesses here and different businesses here, we have to have a skilled workforce.
Yes.
So hence, we have to have them trained prior to them coming here, not train them after they get
Yes,
here.
that's the important thing. We need to invest early to get our rewards at the end, because if they know, like right now, I was reading in one of the welding journals that the state of Kentucky, in some polls, are considered number one in the United States as far as producing welders.
Okay.
And to me, being a welder, welder educator, I take a lot of pride in that. So every day when I walk into work, I want the mindset, we're number one and we're staying number
That's
one
right.
for a reason.
Right,
So,
right.
so it's good news that I've heard in the past.
You know, I love that with the fact, because here, being a Kentuckian, and you were born and raised here.
Yes, sir.
I was adopted by the state 40 years ago.
Yes, yes, you
But I am blue blood through and through.
Yes,
And for some reason or other, we always this thing about being number one.
yes.
And so to protect that, that's something I'm certain that you and your guys take a lot of pride in.
You seen us in action. So you know when we walk in, we are not going for second best. And I tried to explain that to the kids. I made an analogy the other day. Is the school's grading scale? You know, you got an A to an F. A being excellence, F being below par or failure. But then nobody talks about the B's, the C's, and the D's. Well, that's still considering passing.
Right.
And we accept that. So in my program, a lot of cases I do a pass or a fail.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that, because nobody wants to brand themselves as a failure. Nobody wants to walk in as a failure. So it's either you pass or you fail. If you meet industry standards or you don't.
Right.
And we have to look at it that way, because so many kids today look and say, hey, if I can get a C average, I'm happy with that.
Right,
That
right.
It's telling the world that you're okay with being mediocre.
That's right.
And I don't accept that.
Right.
So I think if we set the bar higher as educators and get that into the kids' mindset at an early age, well, then they grow up accepting to be
Mediocre or just
or-
okay.
yes. So that's one thing that we really focus on here at Franklin County Career and Tech, and I think it's paid off. I think it's paid off.
Randy, having been an engineer, one would argue, why would an engineer, after spending all this money on his education, learning at a very, very high level, why would one want to be a welder? And the reason I raise that question is because I'm trying to get to our audience what we're talking about with apprenticeship. We're not anti-university at all.
Oh, definitely. not.
What we are is pro-opportunity.
Yes.
So tell us why and how you ended up being attracted to this.
Well, many moons ago, like yourself, when I was in school, I graduated in 1990.
That wasn't many moons ago.
Well,
that was just many ago.
Starting to sneak up on me anyway. But went through school, probably like most other kids do throughout the United States, going, okay, I'm going through this because I had to and stuff. And then I realized, as I was getting ready to graduate, I'm like, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do? What am I going to take out of high school to move me forward? And I got the opportunity, you know, with trade skills and welding. It was something that first it just fascinated me. I'm like, I want to see what this is about. So it was kind of an exploratory going into it. Well, then I fell in love with it. Well, then at any young man, if you can enjoy something and make good money with it, to me that was a win-win. So then I basically took my career as far as just like the kids that I teach every day. I just built off of it. I was never satisfied, you know, become a certified welder. Well, then I got into management, and then I got into quality. Well, then the next step was to move into a welding engineer. Moved into the welding engineer, and now for the full circle of it, the only other opportunity that I had to give back to a trade that I love so much that has provided for my family and myself was to give back to it. So that's how I actually got into education was I enjoyed working with the kids, taking a kid that might not have those avenues that some others have,
Right.
and build those kids into they're making more money than their moms and dads combined.
Right.
And it's changing families, it's changing lifestyles. So it's not a very high salary, as I would say, as far as education. You have to be in. You're not in it for the money.
Right.
You're in it for the glory and the satisfaction of taking these kids and moving them on into, changing their life. And I know it sounds like a cliche and everything, but and if 13 years ago, if you'd asked me that same question, I don't know what I'd have told you. But
Okay.
13 years later, it is very rewarding, and I still enjoy it every day.
Well, one of the things I noticed also was that not only has it been good for you, and we talk about how this provides opportunities for you and for your family and to raise a family, I noticed that your son has a torch as well.
Yes, my son, he's a senior this year at Mercer County. I'm like you. I've lived. I've had my glory days. I've lived. I don't have to live through my son, so I wasn't pushing him towards being a welder or engineer or anything that I've done. I just opened the door and told him, whatever you do, be the best at it. And he come in one day. He said, "Dad," and he goes, "We took a test today to see what we're going to be." And I said, "What are you going to be?" Well, there was these several things that he had, his profile, he was, I think, a banker and some different stuff like that. Well, then I found out that he went back and started changing his answers until it popped up so he could be a welder. And he said, "I'm going to be a welder." And I was like,
You
"Is
sure?
that what you want to do?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well," he goes, "if it was good enough for you, it should be good enough for me." And I was like, "You be what you want to be." And he's a very prideful young man like myself. He wants to be the best, and I told him the way you be the best is practice, practice, practice. You work every day for it. So he's doing that. Honestly, talking to him the other day with the guidance counselors, he's actually he's looking to go into the apprenticeship program
Okay.
with Toyota.
Okay.
And 2 years after school, Toyota, 6-figure job for
Right.
my 18, 19-year-old son. I could check that one off. That
Right, he'll be okay.
He'll be okay.
Yeah.
So yes. So,
with these apprenticeship opportunities, as we near the end of our show here, with these apprenticeship opportunities, what is the closing message you want to say to these young people? I know that you've seen a lot of young men and women come through your programs. As you say, it builds pride because you want to be the best. What do you want to say to them and making them aware about these incredible opportunities?
I just want to say the same thing that their parents have probably told them from day one. Work hard, strive to be the best at what you do. Second best is not acceptable. Take pride in your work and hard work, and you can be as successful as you want to be. We live in America. The door is open for anybody, and I say the only thing you have to do is go out there and get it.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you've got some insight on our apprenticeship program and the incredible things that's going on here in Frankfort. For more information, you can find us at KentuckyApprenticeship.com. Thanks again for joining us.